We are here to visit the world's biggest tequila producer, Cuervo. Let's see what they have in store for us. It is Christmas time. What does it mean when trying to visit distilleries? On the 16th of December 2025, we had that great idea to go down to the town of Tequila to see if we can do a tour with the biggest and oldest tequila producer of the world, Cuervo. Many smaller distilleries don't even operate between Christmas and New Year's Eve. So how can we advance our story of visiting every distillery we can? Exactly like this. As a good rule of thumb, I do recommend you to book your place. Cuervo does offer you the possibility to book the tour in advance on their website. However, I want you to check if we can simply show up and do a tour. Fortunately, it worked. So if you're in Tequila Town and you haven't booked a single tour, but you would like to do a tour that is likely available even during Christmas holiday or vacation time, this may be a great option for you. So let's go and be cheesy, have a tequila in Tequila. Tequila Town is located in the famous Tequila Valley, Valle del Tequila in Spanish. It's easily accessible from the Guadalajara airport. Though if you want to visit the Tequila Valley and some distilleries in the Los Altos region, it might be wise to plan them in a different day, as Tequila Valley is located on the west side, while the Los Altos region is on the east side of Guadalajara, a minimum of good 3 hours driving distance to each other, not to mention the madness of the Guadalajara traffic. But let's go back to the town of Tequila. You can rent a car, though finding a parking space can prove to be a challenge in a small town like Tequila. You can find a driver or a taxi, or if you're on a budget, you can take the regular bus to the old bus station, from where you can take another bus called Tequila Plus. You can also take the Cuervo train, but that's a different story for a different day. Living in Mexico comes with the perks of having a car, so fortunately, we didn't have to deal with any of the previously mentioned travel options. Only challenge was to find a parking place that we did. The Cuervo distillery is located right at the corner of the main square of the town, so it is easy to get there walking no matter where you're parked, and is not far from the bus station either if you came by bus. When we walked in, the receptionist wasn't surprised at all that we have no reservation. We quickly learned that there is a choice to be made which tour you would like to join. If you're looking for a last-minute, easy-to-arrange tour, there's the Classic Tour and the José Cuervo Tour. The José Cuervo Tour is 45 minutes and it includes a quick tour around the distillery. It makes it a very accessible if you have an hour to spend and you want to visit the distillery, as tours run from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., starting every hour in between. We chose the José Cuervo Tour, which included the Classic Tour and the special tasting of José Cuervo tequilas. The José Cuervo Tour cost us 560 pesos, which is around $30 or 26 euros. There were various other tour options which are geared less to a distillery visit and more to a special experience like chocolate tasting, food pairing, visiting the agave fields, and there is an experience where you can bottle your own Reserva de la Familia bottle. These experiences require some careful planning, though, as they're not available every day and every hour. The tour itself started with a video explaining the history of the Cuervo family and its strong connection with tequila. While there are even sources suggesting that the roots of tequila can be traced back to the neighboring town, Amatitan, according to the most accepted mainstream information, the Cuervo family were the first who were granted an official license from the government to produce their famous Vino Mezcal de Tequila, which later evolved into simply tequila. After the video, we were assigned to a tour guide. It is important to note that Cuervo offers both Spanish and English tour, so make sure you pick the right one. The first area featured a classic old-school car collection from the 20s up till the 40s. These cars were just plain cute. Then we went to the following area where the cooking or hydrolysis happens. We were given a short explanation of the process. On the wall, there were a few agave harvesting equipment hanging for us to observe and learn their names. Our guide also professionally informed us that they have another plant so that people visiting won't be under the impression that every Cuervo bottle is produced at La Rojeña, the name of the distillery we were at that is open for visitors. Then we tasted some cooked agave. While in smaller distilleries, the guide would usually just tear a few bits of big chunks by hand. Here it was already pre-cut and professionally prepared for us. The cooked agave was delicious as it should be. It is also worth mentioning that the whole distillery looks so nice. The presentation of the different rooms, even the ovens, was in a very old-fashioned way. It felt like we were walking around in a very colorful Mexican mansion. Then we went past the fermentation tanks and our guide explained us the process. Then came the distillation still and the aging. For the aging part, there was a few interesting things. First, our guide showed us barrels with glass heads so we could see through it. Inside, there was an almost fully black colored liquid. Our guide said it was an 8-year-old aged tequila. The barrel was shown as an example of the natural angel share evaporation that after 8 years, less than half of the barrel remains. We were also able to taste tequila from small barrels and compare 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months expressions. At this stage, the guide let us, the visitors, fill our cups straight from the barrels so everyone could pour their own tequila. After the distillery tour, we were escorted into a tasting room. The normal classic tour would have already ended, but since we purchased the José Cuervo experience, we were able to take part in a tasting experience. There were 4 tequila expressions of the José Cuervo Tradicional line: Blanco, Reposado, Cristalino, and Añejo. We were taught some of the basics of how to taste tequila properly from a champagne glass. Then we were also shown how different smells would modify the aromas that we perceive.
Okay, you hold it here and smell in the top like this. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no.
So now, if you like cocktails, like margarita, like a lemonade, right? And now it's easy to find margarita.
Guests could learn to distinguish between the different classifications that were presented. And you may ask, what about the tequila I tasted? People tend to be unfair with big tequila producers these days. Big producers are in charge of the massive production and logistics that is required to make tequila a globally renowned spirit. Imagine, Cuervo represents some 30% of the tequila industry, which is, according to the CRT's data in 2025, it surpassed 500 million liters. So imagine when you are in charge of producing and placing over 100 million liters of alcohol. That is a massive responsibility. The key here is consistency and accessible prices. The tequilas we tried had a flavor profile that was very enjoyable to the guests to whom it was the first tequila tasting experience. I think Cuervo is making a great job at creating a very likable flavor profile for its price range. It didn't burn, it wasn't unpleasant at all, easy to drink, and it did have an actual aroma profile the guests could identify during the tasting. Just before coming here, we visited probably the biggest craft tequila brand, G4. So let's compare the prices. G4 at Old Town Tequila is sold at $59.99, whereas Cuervo Tradicional Reposado is at $22.99. So you could buy 2.5 bottles of Cuervo Reposado for the price of just one G4 Reposado. Cuervo Tradicional doesn't position itself to be a top tequila, but more of a value expression. I was able to see some very nice Armagnac, Sauterne, and even Tokaji barrels, though the Tokaji barrels were mispronounced as usual. Hint, we're Hungarians, so likely the only ones who noticed. In any case, they were labeled as organic, so these were likely used in the highest end Reserva de la Familia products, and we didn't get to taste these. After the experience, we ended up at the gift shop. Cuervo isn't only the biggest tequila producer, but they also run the biggest gift shop I have ever seen. From tequilas to cocktail mixing ingredients to special artistic editions to jewelry, clothing, and even cookies made of agave fibers. One noteworthy mention is the 250 years anniversary edition, which was on display for sales at a price tag of 50,000 pesos, which is approximately $2,500. So do I recommend visiting Cuervo? Absolutely. Even if you're an avid tequila aficionado, just going through the hacienda, you will be meeting with a piece of important tequila history. The basic tour is only 45 minutes and is easily accessible even without previous planning, though if you want to be sure or you want a more fancy experience, planning may be required. And if you're new to tequila or you want to learn a few tasting tips and tricks, I definitely recommend taking the tasting as well. Even my wife enjoyed it, and it included tasting combined with lime, coffee beans, cinnamon. It was very professionally set up and enjoyable. If you don't mind that you would be taking and tasting tequilas within the everyday value range, I recommend you take the full tour, and if you want to skip the tasting, you can take the quicker classic tour.